Kenny, what's he going to say?
He has no idea what he's gotten himself into.
Hey, you guys. Councilman, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
And before we get started too much here, we have a couple of special guests in the studio. Hey, Bobby, these are your parents. Bobby and Paula Hebert drove over here from Cutoff, Louisiana for the first big show. So we're bringing them in. And I met your dad, Bobby, and Paula. They have some things that they'd like to say to you. As Mom and Dad are coming in, we got Morton's here too. Morton Anderson's here, and here comes Mom, and here comes Dad. Hey there, come on in and say hello to your son.
Well, my dad's a lot like me. He's not short of words, so, now his accent's a little thicker than mine, so we might need an interpreter, but...
Well, I think the best thing, Bobby, is, you're taking over with Body D and everything. You just keep the same translator now.
Right, exactly. I think that was a prerequisite, If you speak too much of the King's English, well, shit, that's not Louisiana. Who's worried about the King's English? Just tell it like it is. Just what's a natural, way to talk, and that's how we are in Louisiana. Just say what you feel.
And as Phil Hoover was just mentioning, your dad here in the studio, are we going to be able to understand? What are you going to say? We're going to be able to understand you?
No, he'll start talking French now.
I mean, maybe. I knew that. Yes, keep it.
A little bit.
Well, look, I really would like to get this show started and get going, because we got Morton, we got your dad, we got your mom here. I want to officially welcome you two into this hot seat. Bobby, well, you're going to take the ball, you're going to run with it.
Hey, Hoop, I am so excited. Just you and Diane, gave me this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it, and just looking forward to this day, and can't wait to get started, and just to be a part of the city. I mean, this is like I'm sitting in the living room, just having fun, and just talking sports, talking about the Saints, whatever the public wants. I mean, I'm here. I'm a voice of the people. I mean, I was a football fan before I was a football player. So that's why I think I can bring that perspective and just, be honest. You can't BS the fans of New Orleans and Louisiana and all the listeners of WWL. At night, you'd be amazed. We were talking about this earlier, especially in the fall, how many people from around the country get to hear LSU football, the New Orleans Saints. So they actually have their dial turned to the big 870, and they want to be a part of it because this is this is a so-called people show. None of this politically correct prima donna crap. This tells it like it is, and that's what people want in today's society.
Well, that's what the three of us talked about. And you and I and Kenny, that makes four, I guess. I just can't count. But that's what we talked about. We talked about telling like it is. This is the Buddy D studio. Buddy always did. That's what we expect. So we got one more thing. I just want to start this show one more time with your new intro. And then at that point, it's up to you guys. Let's put some W's on the board. That's all we want here. So let's hit it again.
It's the mouth of the South, the Big 870 WWL. Time for Sports Talk with Bobby Hebert.
Clock 870! Clock 870! Punch!
And Kenny Wilkerson.
It's getting crazy in here. Now we got a game.
Come on! Bring the wood! Bring the heat!
Call 504-260-1870 or 866-889-0870. Now, live from the Buddy D studio, our home next to the Dome, here's the Big 870's Cajun Cannon. Bobby Hebert.
Come on, the ball! Punch him in the mouth!
And Kenny Wilkerson. This is a tasty burger.
And good afternoon. Welcome again to another edition of Sports Talk, a very new edition of Sports Talk. Kenny Wilkerson along with Bobby Hebert. We'll be joined in the studio. We've got a big show lined up. We'll be with you until 8 o'clock tonight. Morton Anderson is here. We'll be joined by Dalton Hilliard. Steve Court is here. Jim Wilkes will be here. We'll be joined on the line as well by Ricky Jackson. I mentioned Dalton Hilliard. We'll also be joined by Jim Henderson and Archie Manning, just to name a few. Eric Martin also, if we actually can make track with him and track him down, Bobby, we actually will get Eric Martin on.
No, if we get Eric Martin live, when Eric finished playing, would he join the CIA or something?
No, he disappeared, and every now and then he pops up.
No,
usually when he's looking for tickets to something.
No, I was joking. I said, well, you like the Black James Bond or something? You're on a mission throughout the world? No, Eric, if you call him too many times, he changes his phone number every 3 weeks. So you never can get a hold of him. But Eric's a great guy. He's a guy that I could count on whenever I needed to complete a pass. And, Mark, he was one of the key players who we won.
What you should do,
there we go. What you should do is leave a message on Eric's cell phone on the voicemail and say, Eric, I got a check for you. And I got a big check for you. I'm not sure what it's for, but it's your name on it.
Or a free round of golf.
Yeah, the check is always, it was one of those checks that the Saints never got to you, or whatever. Right, I always try to explain to Eric, listen, you can't be bitter when a team gets rid of you. Eric took the approach, you play long enough, you're very seldom going to play for the same team. So when he had to go play for the Chiefs, they're like, what, the Saints don't think I can play anymore? So he kind of held that against him, and I just told him, hey, you got to get over that, because I tell you what, Eric, besides Joe Horn, he's top 2 or 3 receivers in, Saints history. And a guy that you could count on, was strong, tough. They don't make too many Eric Martin these days. He's a guy that you can count on to get home when you need him.
Some of the rest that we'll be doing on the show tonight, as well as we'll also pay tribute to Sam Mills, as you just heard a little while ago. Sam Mills passing away today, unfortunately, at the age of 45. Morton Anderson, again, is in the studio. We'll be joined by Dalton Hilliard, and we'll be spending the next 3 hours with you, taking you all the way up until 8 o'clock. Also, we'll talk about Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football is moving. It's not moving off of Monday, but it is moving. Also, some South Carolina football players are getting in a little bit of trouble. Again, Dalton Hilliard. Steve Court is going to be, and he's here in the studio. He'll join us later.
So can't wait. In terms of South Carolina players getting in trouble, they like Ricky Williams syndrome?
Yeah, they got Ricky Williams type of trouble.
They wanted to hit the bong and it'll spruce it up a little bit.
Steve Spurrier already getting himself in some trouble with Fulmer last week by talking about back and forth with South Carolina and Tennessee. Now I wonder what Fulmer's going to have to say about some of his players getting busted for smoking marijuana.
Well, then maybe if Ricky Williams can't play, maybe Spurrier can hire him. He could be the running back coach.
There you go. We have a lot to do. A lot to do. We'll have a big show for you tonight and every night. Tomorrow night we'll be out at the Tulane LSU baseball game. Leading up to that, we've got big plans here on the Big 870. Again, Morton Anderson in the studio with us. That's Bobby Hebert. I'm Kenny Wilkerson. You're listening to Sports Talk. 260-1870 is the number to call to join us on the Big 870. Welcome back to Sports Talk. Kenny Wilkerson along with Bobby Hebert. Morton Anderson in the studio with us. We'll be joined later in this hour by Dalton Hilliard. In the next hour, Steve Court and Jim Wilkes, who are already here, will join us. We'll also be talking to Ricky Jackson on the telephone, Jim Henderson, Archie Manning, just some of the names, to name a few, if you will, that will be joining us. Hokie Guys on also, our own Hokie Guys on here at the Big 870. We're upstairs here on the 5th floor of the Dominion Towers overlooking the Louisiana Superdome. Morton and Bobby, before we really kind of get into nuts and bolts about the show and nuts and bolts about what's happening with the Saints and all that, very sad and tragic news today with Sam Mills. So, Morton, if I could start with you, if we could. What does Sam mean?
On the field, Sam was the consummate professional, and I had a great relationship with Sam. I talked to him right before Carolina was heading to the Super Bowl, and I was with the Chiefs, and he sounded great, He was going to beat this thing and so forth, and, it was just dreadful to see, and it just saddens me really greatly. And off the field, he was such a gentleman. He never had a bad word to say about anybody. He was just, he was a leader on our football team, the cornerstone of the Dome Patrol and defense, and I was making terrible. It's a good word to use for him. Probably the most appropriate word is that he was a true gentleman. Bobby, when Sam was very close, we just were talking about how Sam, everybody saw him in December and early January, some of the last games of the season, and he looked great. He was such a good guy that, a lot of times if you have daughters, you say, well, I don't want them to date football players. Well, you would let your daughter go on a date with Sam Mills. He was an animal on the football field, but he was a gentleman off. Everyone, Saints fans can associate, the Dome Patrol with great defenses. But Sam was the leader of that group. You had Pat Swirling, Ricky Jackson, Ron Johnson. But Sam was the brains and the brute strength of the defense. And he put everybody in the right position. And I can honestly say that if you talk to Coach tomorrow, he said who his favorite football player of all time, all the players that he's coached, would be Sam Mills. You know, they go back to the Philadelphia Stars, USFL, and then with the Saints. I mean, just think about this. How many players, I mean, in the start time, when he left the Saints, if you go to Carolina Panthers games, they got a statue of Sam Mills outside the stadium. That's like Rocky it's like Rocky or Michael Jordan, like.
Greatest run stopper. I mean, yeah. Well, when you played obviously together with him with the Saints, unfortunately for you, you didn't have to go against it. When you moved on and Sam moved on, when you would go against him, how many times would he, when he was lined up against you, would he be pointing at the right hole where the play was called and you had to step out of it?
Listen, he never was going to mentally get beat. He might get beat physically now and then. I mean, he didn't have the nickname Steel Mouth for nothing. I mean, if you punch him with computer, Von Johnson would come out as a typical linebacker, not, Sam Mills. Just looking at Von Johnson, I mean, he had a bullet head. He looked so mean. You would feel like if you were playing, like in a high school game and you good traveling by bus, you want a guy like Von Johnson to be the first one off the bus because he looked so intimidating. But Sam Mills was right there with him, and physically, it just knocked the snot out of you. I can remember a time Eric Dickerson stayed to practice was visiting with Ricky Jackson. They played the Los Angeles Rams, and wanted to see who hit him so hard the day before. He can hide behind guards and tackles fully. I mean, really hit Eric Dickerson so hard in his jaw. Eric Dickerson said he had never gotten hit that hard and wanted to see personally who hit him. And when he met Sam, he goes, "That's the little guy that hit me?" He was utterly shocked. And Sam Mills ever to deliver a blow, but he was the leg strength that made the difference for him to be the linebacker.
He had a big sense of humor, didn't he? He was a big practical joker. Really, nobody knew about that, right?
When he spoke, though, you listened, and he was. He could see his gas, and you realize, 5-10 minutes later, I think Sam just got me. And he was so good at that stuff. He had actually told, jokes a lot to him, but you never knew it was him. Practical jokes. Yeah. He was below the radar, big guy, below the radar. Right. Guy, well, that's some of the things that was me,
Yeah, I remember so many times out there on David Drive, and different things would be happening, and then you guys would talk about it like the next day, like, did you know that Sam he got Hill yesterday, he got Eric yesterday. I mean, nobody would really know what he was doing. I mean, the media and the fans really didn't know that about him. They really didn't know it. He was a big practical joker.
He'd come in on his day off and do stuff. I mean, he'd come in anyway to lift and watch film. Well, I can honestly say, besides these guys sitting to my left, Martin Anderson, I think he'd be the second player to put in the NFL Hall of Fame. If I look at the big three, I'm thinking Martin Anderson first, Sam Mills, and Ricky Jackson. To have a chance to be in the NFL Hall of Fame. There's only so many guys you want to be in the Foxhole with. Sam Mills is one of those guys.
Well, I mean,
you look at Pat Tillman and, what he represents to the NFL and what he did, going to war and everything. Sam Mills had that kind of characteristic and personality. And, it's so sad, but it's so true, when you hear the saying, only the good die young. I mean, you don't think of death when you're 40s. You think, I live to, 75, 80 years old. If you're lucky, but, that just shows you take your health for granted until you actually, become sick. And it's just so sad because, you might see some person in society, and, they might get shot 20 times or they're drinking and smoking, they waste it every day of their life, but they're like a bad weed, you can't kill them. You get a good guy like Sam Mills to have,
he never wanted to draw any attention to the illness or to himself, and he was just all the way up. No, the normal person, all the way to the end. He didn't want anybody to feel sorry for him, or he didn't know that he was sick.
Think about this, the normal person wasn't even a coach last year. The normal person, you look at society, the masses, I mean, they couldn't even have done what he did with Carolina last year. I mean, Dan Morgan, all the Carolina linebackers, Mark Pierce.
Why did they look at Mark Pierce?
No.
What he did?
They respected him so much that whatever he said, it wasn't no talking about. They knew they could trust him, that he knew what was up. I mean, you look at the players. Martin will tell you this. All through the years, they got about, I'd say, 15 to 20% that are self-motivated. The other players, the coach got to crack the whip and get on them or they're not going to get the job done. Sam, he never had to worry about that. Just pointing in the right direction. and the job was going to get done.
Because of what he meant to the Saints, because of what he meant to the Panthers, and to the National Football League, continued to work after his playing days, became a coach, and turned so many good football players into even great football players.
Mentor,
really, exactly. A matter of time, and whether you could say he's a shoe-in for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I don't know, but and he's as close to a shoe-in as you probably could find right now. Morton, I'm sure, also one day, but until your playing days are over, then that's not going to happen.
Yeah, but Mark's playing until he's 50.
Yeah, well, that's some of the things that we talked
Looking
about.
for a job, you know.
Getting ready.
Looking for a job right now.
Are you playing?
He's the 21st century George Blanda right here.
Are you going to beat Blanda? Is that
Well,
what the plan is?
Blanda has been beaten, you know. No, right, didn't you be like member of games? Yeah, we got over 350 now, you know, so. 350, that's, you know, but the most remarkable thing, let me tell you, 52. You know, one of the reasons why, you said, well, who do you want to bring in here as far as ex-players, ex-teammates? Who do you want to be by your side? I said, well, let me tell you, out of all the years I've played, you know, USFL, NFL, you know, coming up to 15 years, I said, Martin Anderson probably has to be the closest to me. I vacation with him. I mean, I've been to the family vineyard in the south of France. I mean, hanging out. I mean, talking about good times. I mean, we have so much karma. I mean, like, we be in the locker room, you know, right by each other. So, whoa, you thinking the same thing? We have the same birthday, August 19th, 1960. I mean, it's just, it's the same. Well, he's like 6 hours old, and we talked to his mom. I mean, there's so much that we have in common. And the most remarkable thing that I think about Martin, how many people can say in NFL that he's 2 times all-time leading scorer, not just for one team, he's the all-time leading scorer for the Saints and the Falcons. I mean, that'd be like the all-time leading scorer for LSU in Tulane. I mean, you know, talk about a rivalry. I mean, stuff like that just don't happen. Well, I had to pick 2 teams I could get to, you know what I mean? Yeah, Saints, I mean, if I'd gone to New York or San Francisco, it would have been tough, I think. But if you're saying Saints, Falcons, Tulane, LSU, who are the Saints? Well, Georgia Tech. I'm just talking about the rivalry. I mean, you look at Tulane baseball right now. They got the upper hand, though. And not necessarily long-run football.
We're going to see it up close and personal tomorrow night because they both kind of got their act together. Tulane already had their act together. And LSU really put it together over the weekend. They had a walk-off on Saturday, and they played very well yesterday and had a big win. It's going to make that game even better. I know more now. When you were here, college baseball was kind of big. It's gotten very, very big in the last 6, 7, 8 years because of LSU going to Omaha and winning so much, and it really has taken off. Now Tulane, the number 1 team in the country, have been ranked number 1, not the entire season, but they started off the season at number 1, and they're ranked number 3.
Until they start hitting with wooden bats. I mean,
you're not going to say the same.
But what a great place to play in New Orleans, Tulane. If you're a top college, you're a top high school baseball player.
Right.
Oh, go to New Orleans,
great job.
Martin, they'll recruit you. Man, I was here for 13 years. I know what it did to me, to my body.
Well, and
to be 21 again.
Both you guys, by being here as long as you were, you know, anything that's successful, the passion of New Orleans comes out. And so the passion is there for Tua, the passion is there for
him. He even does that. Touch the lights right out of you.
Right, they'll just really get after it.
You know, Martin and I have talked about this. You have to be a special rookie coming out of college and making in New Orleans. I mean, not the same thing drop anybody just on time. You have somebody with you in the car at all times. If you're in line, man. That's what my rookie year down here, I don't remember. You don't remember those strikes. They just gave me more reason to go out and party. Yeah, there we go. Sam Mills,
the relationship with Bobby Moore, of course, we're lucky enough and honored enough to be in this spot now because of the passing of Buddy. And over the years, he did many, many shows with Buddy. Yeah. The second guest show was at the place of Champions out there at Lakeside. Great time. Before we take a time out here in another minute or so, what is what's the biggest thing you remember? What's the funniest thing you remember?
Well, I don't know if it was funny, but this struck me with Buddy. He was fiercely loyal to this station, but he was also fiercely loyal to his co-host. And when we co-hosted that Monday night show, there were lots of times when I could easily have gotten in trouble when I was heading down the wrong path. You know, as far as what I was saying, and he directed me right back in there, you know, and this is professionalism, and he had my back. He always had my back. So hopefully, I laid callers in, and if I had missed a field goal on Sunday, you know, I had to explain on Monday, you know, why I missed it. But Buddy B would neutralize that whole situation just by the way he handled the caller. So he would, you know, and he just go on to the next thing, and it kept sort of me from personally
feeling like I was getting attacked. It was kind of nice. Which, you know, Kenny, you have to beat your body, you know. Well, I mean, everybody's going to have to take a shot at Bobby now and then, too. Well, I'm not sure about everybody, but yeah, I mean, not everybody, but, you know. Yeah, absolutely. You know, you guys got to play a game now, Bob. No, you got to be thick-skinned. Come on, just like, you know, when you play, and but I thought Buddy D was great. You know, people come to Bob on the street and say, you know what? You're little Buddy D. And I go, yeah, you're right. I mean, you can be. I mean, there's only one and only one icon. Buddy D is an icon in your city. So all I can do is just, you know, do my best and be myself and have fun. That's the bottom line. Just tell it like it is, because that's what people want. They want to feel like they can sit down and talk with you like they're doing your living room. They didn't like everything, you know, he said. I mean, I didn't like everything Buddy D said, but you know what? Most of the time he was thinking the truth. And how can you sometimes it's hurt. Yeah, it's hurt. You know, how do you argue about it? And it was always very good. When this was decided and they made it official with Bobby and I early last week, one of the first things that Bobby and I both talked about, and I talked about a number of times leading up to this day, and now from here on out, is to, you know, to talk about not what you think, but what you know. Don't think about what you think is going on. And if it is your opinion, make sure that it's very clear. Yeah, this is what you think might be happening, but you don't really, you know, until you know for certain. And the advantage for players, the advantage for somebody like you more than for Bobby is that you do understand what's happening out there. It's easy to pick up, it's easy to talk to players, it's easy to talk to coaches and find out. When they say we have to look at, I remember doing stories on this so many times, we have to look at it on tape. And everybody always thinks that that's an excuse. It really is not an excuse. Sometimes they use it as an excuse, and I'm not going to lie. You players and coaches will use it sometimes as their crutch as an excuse. But there are many, many times that players and coaches look at tape on Monday and realize certain things that happen in the game that the public just doesn't know about. You know, Mort, I was telling Kenny sometimes, when you're talking about looking at the tape, you might be in games and you think you played better than what you really did. When you look at the tape, then all of a sudden you're like, man, I had a bad game. And then you look at the film and there's some circumstances you couldn't control. So that's what gives you in perspective. I think that's, or you think you played well and you look at the tape and realize you didn't play very well. No, it's like, what a man, I was lucky on stuff, you know. That's Bobby Hebert, Morton Anderson also in the studio with us. I'm Kenny Wilkerson right here on the Big 870. 260-1870 is the number to call. We'll open up the phone lines, give you a chance to talk to Bobby as well as Morton Anderson when we come back on the Big 870. What? Up to the minute news on the show? And welcome back to Sports Talk. Kenny Wilkerson along with Bobby Hebert and Morton Anderson, someone who probably did do some blocking and fighting and choking and kicking and doing anything he had to do to try to protect Bobby Hebert, was running back Dalton Hilliard out of LSU and with the Saints forever, one of the also longtime heroes of the Saints and endeared by everybody in this region. Dalton, thank you very much for taking time with us on Sports Talk, and welcome to the Big 870.
Thank you, Kenny. Appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure. Anything that Bobby and Guy Morton has associated with and doing this today is quite an honor, guys.
Well, Don, I'm just so glad you're able to, come on with us. I wish it'd be, better circumstances, with Sam Mills passing away. But, there's only a handful of guys you just really enjoy playing with, and, you and Sam, the true warriors. That was one thing. I mean, I looked at you and Sam, and you might have been quiet, but whenever you did say something, you carried a big stick. And, there's a lot of meaning behind that, and I always appreciated that. But I know that I can always count on you, that, knowing your assignment, running hard, and being totally professional about your work. And everyone knew that from the LSU days, and I'm just glad. So what are you doing these days as far as, business-wise in Louisiana?
Well, Bobby, first of all, I want to give all my blessings out to the Mills family, basically. All I can say, I hope that one day I have a 14-year-old that can grow up to be a Sam Mills, because this guy's dedication, not on the field, but specifically off the field, also as a man. I wish one day my son would grow up to be able to follow his footsteps. So it was a sad occasion for the city of New Orleans to lose a man such as Sam Mills at such an early age. But Bobby, these days, man, I'm just working. I'm in the off field, basically in the personnel side, supplying welders and fitters and bidding on different projects for different vessels throughout the off field for rigs and shop work. So I've been blessed and things have been going well.
So, Don, if I was to see you today, because I'm looking at Jim Wilkes, I haven't seen him in a while, Steve Court, Hokie Martin. Looking at Martin, I said, man, you be 45 in August, you look about 39. Jim Wilkes was like you still could play. Now, if I would see you in person today, Would you like a football player or would you like a roly-poly? I want to tell me. I want to hear this.
I'll tell you what, I'm scared to play, man.
I like that. I remember Dalton, man. Hey, Dalton, this is Morton. How you doing, buddy?
How you doing, man?
I remember your legs. I mean, not that I looked at your legs or anything, but I mean, I remember they couldn't find pants big enough for those legs. The waist was so small. I don't know what you were, 32 or something. The biggest quad your legs. I mean, we knew, man. We were goal line. We knew the 3 yards. Just give it a DH, man. He's going to stick it in there for 6, you know? Well, that was already halfway out to get the point. Guys, I know a bunch of people, a lot of guys and ladies around town that play in different baseball leagues and softball leagues. And they run into Dalton. Are you still active with him this year, Dalton?
Yeah.
All the softball leagues? I mean, he plays in a whole bunch of different stuff. And a lot of people have recognized him, Bobby. Because of his legs. Yeah, that's good. Plenty of people ask about it. Don Hayes will try to Patterson. I look at him, I'm going to cut out and get Patterson. I start to feel like, man, it's a homeboy that I can kind of trust. No, I want to reflect on this story and see if you remember Coach Moore's first training camp in Hammond, when he had you and Earl Cameron, all the running backs wearing those knee braces.
Yeah.
And then I think that's one of the reasons why Earl Cameron retired. Here he is, 29 years old. He said, Cajun, I'm too old for this. He lasted like 10 days. And like 10 days, like, soul brother, I'm out. You never got me. Coach Moore, for some reason, what about y'all brought out your knees and you made y'all wear those knee braces?
Most definitely. I really called my agents in the field that same week. I said, Jimmy, there's no way I can compete to be running like a robot, man. I need to have my flexibility, and Earl felt the same way. He came in there, told Jim Skippers that, here I am at my elderly age with the legs I have and Dalton his size. There's no way we can be locked down with these things on our legs. So Jim sort of realized that and made the offensive linemen start there and got the running backs off of those knee braces.
Well, Dalton, we want to thank you very much for taking time with us, and a short visit tonight, but we definitely look forward with Bobby in the saddle with us here at the Big 870. We look forward to spending more time, especially as we get closer to football season and maybe even during football season, where you guys can help us break things down and really break down the X's and O's. Dalton Hilliard, thank you very much for taking time with us tonight, yes? Thanks a lot, Dalton. Thanks, man. Okay, that's Dalton Hilliard. Morton Anderson in the studio with us. He's got a very, we're going to take a time out here in a second. He's got an extremely interesting story in regarding to his days in New York that we want to hear about, and we'll get that from him. Over the years, so many different coaches and so many different teams, of course, starting here in New Orleans with Bum, and then, of course, Jim Moore. Bobby Hebert in the studio with us, Morton Anderson. I'm Kenny Wilkerson. We're right here on the Big 870 WWL. Welcome back to SportsTalk. Kenny Wilkerson along with Bobby Hebert and Morton Anderson here in the studio. Morty, our thanks as always. And we're going to go away for just a little bit. Steve Horton and Steve Horton are going to come in the studio and join us, and then you'll be with us in the entire 7 o'clock hour. That 911 story deserves probably more than just 30 seconds. Yeah, I'll try to do a synopsis on it. It's difficult, but I was with the Giants. We're playing Monday Night Football against Denver on the 10th of September. We flew back to Atlanta. I remember a beautiful sunrise over Manhattan and the towers, and we landed near the airport, two planes away from flights 93 and 94, went down to Pennsylvania. What was we getting ready to go? Yeah, so we didn't know that. I woke up at 9:30, my wife supposed to come down and look for housing, and you never know, on the plane, they shut everything down. So we'll get him back and we'll elaborate on that. Absolutely. That's Morton Anderson, Bobby Hebert in the studio with us. I'm Kenny Wilkerson. This is Sports Talk on the Big 870.
Miles of the South, the Big 870 WWL. Time for Sports Talk with Bobby Hebert. And Kenny Wilkerson. Call 504-260-1870 or 866-889-0870. Now, live from the Bobby G Studio, our home next to the dome, is the Big 870 Cajun Cannon. Bobby Hebert and Kenny Wilkerson. Here's a tasty burger.
And welcome back to another hour of Sports Talk. Kenny Wilkerson along with Bobby Hebert
joined in the studio by Steve Court and Jim Wilkes. We'll get to them in just a second. I want to update you on a few things. If you've missed the news already, unfortunately, the sad news of Sam Mills, the passing of Sam Mills today at the age of 45. We'll talk about that with some of the guys that even played on the same teams with him here in just a second. Tulane holds on to the number 1 ranking in college baseball, that in the collegiate baseball poll. Cal State is number 2. Texas 3. LSU does make a move from 19 up to 18. Tulane is number 3 in the Baseball America poll, which is where they were last week. LSU goes from 22 up to number 20. You may have noticed in the first hour, things a little bit different. Not only a different show, with myself along with Bobby Hebert, which we will be with you each and every night from 5 until 8 o'clock now is where Sports Talk is going to be. Also, we've got a different format you may have picked up on in that first hour. Much longer segments and a lot more time to be able to talk with our guests as well as also our callers. And I know we haven't been able to do a whole lot of that so far tonight. We're going to do our best. But with so many different people coming in and out of the studio, with the show that we had planned tonight, a lot of Bobby's former teammates, Ricky Jackson, as I mentioned, Steve Court and Jim Wilkerson in the studio with us. In this hour, we're also going to be joined by Ricky Jackson, City Camp himself, Archie Manning and Jim Henderson will join us as well. And in the 7 o'clock hour, we'll have Morton Anderson back in here, as well as host you guys on. Steve and Jim, thank you very much for coming on in and being here. But both you guys stay and reside in the area. Steve across the lake and Jim Wilkes over out in Canada, I believe, still out there, right? Not too far out. Yeah, a little quick hop, skip, and a jump. Bobby, I mean, yeah, when I saw them being able to still play, these two look like they can play. Listen, you look at Steve Court, Jim Wilkes, and even Martin Anderson. They're not big, fat, old football players. They look like they could still line up and get the job done. When I first met Jim Wilkes, I was kind of intimidated by him because he gave me that look, and I was like, man, this is like a mean son of a gun. So I wanted to do his thing from day one. After, of course, Bobby come out of college and you get a lot of recognition. Coming out of San Diego State, it's not like he was a college boy, but he got from SC or UCLA or something. But I tell you what, Jim Wilkes, Frank Warren, Jumpy Devers, they were the backbone of our defense. I know the Zone Patrol got all the recognition. Sometimes they did all the dirty work so the linebackers could shine. And they really get recognition. I'm not just saying that to these right here.
I play against these guys every day.
He's at the blocking practice.
Exactly. My work is hard during the week against these guys, when it's during the season.
See, when you do blitz drills, I'd be so glad. A lot of times I would think Coach Morrow would have to tell the defense to kind of slow down to give the offensive line, especially on the edges, some confidence. Because I said, man, if this would be a real game, I'd be getting the crap beat out of me.
Yeah, I remember. I can remember firsthand.
I mean, just coming off the corner, I mean, both you guys, I mean, how different? Do you watch every week? Do you keep up with everything that's happening?
Yeah. For the first couple of years I did. Then I got really back into it again and started realizing that it was something that I just couldn't put down. So
I watch that bit of it, yeah. Not as much as, not as much really glued to it. I don't want to be in front of the television all the time. No, Jim is not as much a who-dat as me. You guys are who-dat, I mean, some players when they first get out, like Sheila tell you, it's hard because there's something you've done so long, and now you know more a part of it. And see, when I was out of it, I went back to being a fan, like when I was before I ever played. And so I was always kind of overkill, like more than how we should have, to be college football, full football. But, big and strong as these guys are, this is something I like to talk to y'all about. The whole story I used to last night, the 19 years, and I say y'all seen when the first time guys were winning good. I mean, definitely not even said, I could have put this story, but I got myself, I don't put it credit. And then I got my bench press up to 365. I said, man, I think if I could steroids, I could bench 400. And the thing is, my mindset was, at the time, the testosterone flowing, you want to see how strong you could be. So that was just the nature of the beast. It wasn't, today's politically correct, steroids. But then it was like accepted, and Coach Haskell was so right on, I thought, when he talked about, the whole steroid issue.
Yeah, I think you're right in a lot of ways, Bobby. I think it's, if you look across the league, I know that Jim Wilkes and I both faced some guys. I know that across the league, there were some teams that, like I said, some pretty heavy users. I didn't see a whole lot of them in training. Not to say there wasn't some guys that were doing it, but, I know there were some teams we played against during those years, the Niners and the Rams and stuff like that. And then, obviously,
you know, the guys in Pittsburgh and stuff like that, you could definitely tell that these guys, it seems like they're in better shape. As the longer the season went on, everybody else was getting pulled up, and these guys seem like they're in better shape.
You could jump out after you, Jim, especially going against the offensive linemen. There were a few offensive linemen that you knew were on steroids, but once, you know, the league got cracked down so they couldn't take them anymore, it was like a crutch for these guys. They were kind of lost without them. And I was, you know, trying to put reference to the guys that are playing today. You can't even tell if these guys run steroids. They're just so big, and most of them are just big and
I know.
you know, bigger and bigger. You might have missed it. Big and fat. Yeah. It's not like it was. Yeah. I mean, 360 pounds, that's huge for
I don't care how you look. There's not many muscular 360-pound guys.
Listen, I remember when I first met Lincoln Kennedy with the Falcons, the dude couldn't even get down his pants. We in a walkthrough in minicamp. University of Washington playing with the Ravens. He was so fat and out of shape. He's going through a walkthrough and he's breathing hard. You know, said, well, we're not even running. He's like breathing hard. He could hardly get in the stands. You had to send him to the fat farm at Duke. He was to get his weight down.
You know, what's funny, there wasn't many guys on our team that I can remember that were really overweight guys. And I look back at like some of the team pictures.
Look at Joe Hilgenberg. I mean, he had to put weight to try and get over
pictures of like we had like back in the 80s and stuff like that. And I see a bunch of guys, I'm thinking, man, there's not anybody on the team really that by today's standards, they're thin.
Exactly. And I tell you what, guys, it seems like maybe from what y'all are saying, that the trend is somewhat has changed in the sense of guys, linemen especially, because the offensive linemen, there's a bunch of them out there that are just big. And they're just big. They're just a lot of weight. They're not cut. They're not, you know, they're not like they used to be years ago where they look like they're cut from a mold. Whereas instead of using the steroids to get stronger, they just figured bulk is also going to keep me get me a roster spot. Bulk will still get me a big check.
Well, no, you still got to be able to move. If you have bulk, you still got to move. But the most ironic thing is, you ever go to high school football games, especially like 5A, you know, big schools? I mean, if you're not 290, 300 pounds, you're not starting off. This is high school.
Exactly. Yeah,
you know, I mean, it's something you go, what this kid's like, you know, I have a son right now, T-Bob, who's in 10th grade, is 6'3", 255.
Oh, my God.
A 10th grader, you know, lineman.
That would have been
When I was in high school, I ate everything in the kitchen and could only get up to 215 pounds.
Only get up to 215 pounds?
215 pounds.
But you see, when you blossom at the right time,
Hey, I graduated from high school. I was a big defensive lineman. I was a defensive lineman at the time. I was 225 pounds, and I was one of the bigger guys. You know, I went to Arkansas and played behind Dan Hampton, so obviously I didn't get much time.
How big is your son?
Steven's about,
and if y'all don't know, his son,
6'1", maybe 230, 35 pounds.
and if y'all don't know, all you LSU fans out there, Stephen Court, Steve's son, was offered a scholarship after his junior year before he even played his senior year. So when that happens, you know you're pretty good, especially LSU coming off a national championship. So, hey, sorry, University of Arkansas. We know he might be your favorite son.
Hey, I'm excited about it. I mean, I can't, selfishly, I mean, obviously he's 45 minutes from the house, and that's great. That's going to give me the opportunity to visit with him and see him play and watch him develop. But I know he's excited about playing for the Tigers.
All three of you guys, starting with you, Jim, do you think, when you've seen this story in the last month really kind of develop and really kind of take off, has the surface just been scratched as far as where this is going to go in the next year or so, with the implications, the steroid issue in all of professional sports? The implications are going to be coming down, the investigations are going to be coming down from stuff that you guys know from years and years and years of use. Are we just scratching? Is it just the surface just being scratched?
I think it's just being scratched. I mean, you have track and field and all, they have so many masking agents for these things where the guys can get away with it until you come up with something that can break the mask of it and take the mask off, if you will. I think you're just scratching.
You know, I agree with Jim. I think that athletes, especially the more competitive you get and the higher you go into different levels and where there's money involved, guys are going to find a way to get the edge, so to speak, and they're going to find a way to cheat. There's no doubt in my mind, and I think they'll continue to find ways to cheat. Even if we have ways to test these guys, they're going to find different ways and different kinds of steroids that are undetectable.
And you mentioned, Bob, you got a big son that's probably, you know, you got to find ways to keep him and convince him if he doesn't already know, because he's going to be around guys that are going to be saying, oh, come on, it's okay.
Right,
and it's not. You know, we got a mask that's going to cover it up, and it's not.
No, you got to think in long term, your health. I mean, you know, because, you know, everyone wants the quick fix. I mean, you look drive-through, you know, eating, but we don't sit down and eat a meal hardly anymore. Everybody's so fast-paced. But it's almost like today, it's kind of like if you win something, they go, oh, he must be on steroids. So it's almost like, and you look at Lance Armstrong. I'm not saying he, you know, he was able to fool, the testers. But, I mean, to be able to do what he's done was unbelievable. But I can say today, though, all the NFL proves this, that they're taking creatine. I talked to linemen,
Right.
and that's just like you'd have to eat, 2 pounds of red meat to get that in your system. But, I mean, that's something to help you endurance and make you stronger, but you're able to rush the passer in the fourth quarter like you did in the first quarter.
That's Bobby Hebert, my co-host Kenny Wilkerson here from now on, here on Sports Talk from 5 to 8 each and every weekday night. Steve Court is in the studio with us, a longtime offensive lineman with the Saints, and also Jim Wilkes, longtime defensive lineman with the Saints as well, some of Bobby's former teammates. We're going to continue with more of Sports Talk. Kenny Wilkerson, Bobby Hebert, Steve Court, and Jim Wilkes. We'll be back on the Big 870. Hey, Kenny Wilkerson along with Bobby Hebert in studio. We're joined tonight in this hour by Steve Court, offensive lineman from the Saints, and also Jim Wilkes. Bobby was mentioning earlier, and we were talking about thanking his mom and dad. I haven't even had a chance to thank my mom and dad for coming here tonight. Pat Wilkerson, anybody in the French Quarter knows that name, Pat Wilkerson. He was here earlier along with my mother. Anybody knows anything about the school board that doesn't have any problems, the Jefferson Parish School Board. She is the president.
Oh.
I'm proud of both of them. She is Judy Colgan, and also my wife and my mother-in-law were here earlier. So my thanks for all of them for coming down. Bobby, I know that you're happy that your mom and dad were able to make it up the bayou to come watch you do the show for the first night.
You have to make it up the bayou, and when we put my dad on the radio, I think he just talked French. He just said French words, so we had a little interpretation, but we got it. But my dad's like me. He likes to hold a conversation and have a good time.
Yeah, he does. We're going to get back to Steve in a second here, and Jim, the Saints did make a little news today. They signed a one-year deal with cornerback Jimmy Williams. He was the 6th-round pick of the Buffalo Bills back in the 01 draft. The Zurich Classic coming next week, or in a couple of weeks, actually, here next week. Todd Hamilton, the British Open champion and the Honda Classic champion last year, he will be at the Zurich Classic at the TPC over on the West Bank. And after 35 years of Monday Night Football, there we go, on ABC, the NFL is switching its Monday night games to ESPN starting in the next 06 season, not this season coming up. Also, NBC is returning to the NFL after a 6-year absence by taking the Sunday night broadcast, which was originally on ESPN.
More money.
The Monday night move from network television to basic cable was confirmed today by 2 sources familiar with the deals. NBC will get the Sunday night package for $600 million over 6 years, according to the sources, and one of the sources says that the network will also get the Super Bowl in 2009 and 2012. The move leaves ABC, which originated Monday Night Football in 1970, as the only major network without the NFL.
So Kenny.
Music is same. I'm okay with it.
So wait. But
well, it's ABC and
ESPN saying the same. But I mean,
Bob, he wants the music again. Let's get him that music while we're talking here. Go ahead, Bobby.
Oh, man, it gives me the free songs. Free songs. I got the goosebumps here and there. Ready to run through the tunnel. But you know what, Kenny? It's like, what if you live out in the country and you still don't got cable? You got the old rabbit ears and stuff? What, you can't watch Monday Night Football or what?
Gotta have somebody go stand outside and twist his
if you're hanging out at Busan or something, you at your cabin trying to fish, and it's Monday night, I guess you just miss Monday Night Football.
You just stick to the fishing.
That's right.
Well, they know how to pirate stuff like that. What are you talking about? People in the country are smart. They know how to pirate all that stuff.
That's right.
Back with Steve Court and Jim Wilkes here in the studio with us tonight for our first show. Bobby Hebert and myself, and our pleasure to have these guys in here with us, talking about the size and the steroids and everything. Knowing how the game has changed, not only because of the steroids, not only because of all that, but because of the money and mostly the attitude of these guys. The money has gotten so big that it's changed. When you see Randy Moss doing the things that he does, just as an example, or Terrell Owens, just leave those two. What goes through your mind, Steve?
Selfishness. I mean, that drives me crazy. I mean, I look back on the teams we had. I think, somebody would have had a foot up their butt if they'd acted like that. Both T.O. and Randy Moss. And just don't act like that. I mean, it's just something you just don't do. I mean, that's...
Yeah, Jim Wilkes,
in other words, no accountability.
No, Jim Wilkes and Ricky Jackson would have pulled, Randy Moss, T.O. on the side. I mean, they did a few other players, and, I can remember Ricky Jackson pimp slapping a few players in their locker, they weren't doing what they were supposed to do. So, no. I mean, it just wouldn't happen. But the money's so big now, you have so many prima donnas. Where you used to have, like, a handful, now you might have, 15 to 20.
Right, but
You know,
Bobby,
Jim,
I think the remedy to that whole situation is you have a handful of guys that are doing this. I think if the network was, once T.O. scores a touchdown, pan over to the sideline. Don't pan on this guy in the end zone where he's going to show his butt or whatever he's going to do.
Totally
pan
agree.
over to the cheerleaders. I'd rather see them.
Yeah, right. You know what they started doing in hockey, Kenny? They stopped filming the fight. And that stopped a lot of that because he said, okay, I'm going to go out and fight tonight because I'm going to get in the air. The NHL stopped doing that.
Exactly.
They started panning over to whatever else it was. And the guys...
Well, no, like, for instance, one of our own, Joe Horn. You think Joe Horn would have pulled out the cell phone if he knows the camera wasn't on him?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's like, it's made for TV. I guess that's what runs everything. And it's all about a big show. But still, it's still about, performing on the field and it just being real.
Right.
Well,
but if you pan over to the sideline, you're still going to get something from the sideline cheering for this guy that scored the touchdown.
Exactly.
Where they've been showing him.
You get the team concept instead of the individual.
Yeah. Jim, don't you think, like when we were playing during that 80s era, that guys played harder than they play now? It seemed like there's guys that would sell out. They would play harder and do what they had to do for a teammate or, just to be out there to play the NFL.
Yeah, I think we played a lot harder because we played for each other. We knew next year and the year after that we were still playing for the same guys, group of guys. You weren't going to get up and go to another team for more money or whatever. I'd like to play for more money, but you were going to be on that same team, so there was more connection between the players.
There was a count.
That was the only thing I feel bad that I helped contribute to. So, you know what I'm saying, Will?
What was that?
About the money. Bobby, you moved on and was able to further your career with another team, but you never made it to a Super Bowl. Somebody that did move on from the Saints and made it to a Super Bowl and won is somebody you just mentioned, Ricky Jackson. And Ricky is with us now on the line here on Sports Talk. Ricky, a minute ago, Bobby was just talking about, thank you very much for taking time with us, that you and Jim Wilkes would have grabbed Randy Moss and stuffed him in a basketball goal. Is that right, Ricky? Is that what you probably would have done with if Randy Moss would have been on your team? Is Ricky there? Thought Ricky was with us.
City Chat, where are you? Call back.
He's putting.
He's putting, yeah.
He's probably putting. He spends an awful lot of time on the golf course. Maybe Champ's not with us, but okay. So we'll go back to what we were talking about just now. And as far as being able to move on, you saw it, Jim, and you saw players and no players that have been able. Is Rick? Okay, we'll try one more time.
I'm thinking they need the same radio station.
Oh, there he is. Hey, Ricky. Okay, here we go. All right, Ricky. Thank you very much for taking time with us. I don't know if you heard what we were just talking about, but. If Randy Moss would have been on your team and pulled the kind of stunts that he has pulled in recent years, what would you and Jim Wilkes have done to him?
Well, one thing, he's too big for the game, that's all.
You see, Ricky's put it in the right perspective. Too big a head, not humble enough.
Yep.
No, I tell you what, you couldn't have found a harder, tougher player, more of a leader on the field and off than Ricky Jackson. I mean, he lead by example. He would have told Randy Moss, young buck, come here, let me tell you how it is. And really just lead by example and make him want to be a team player. And if you still don't want to be a team player, I said, Ricky, that's when you might have to limp slap him and throw him in his locker and say, now, this is the way it is.
Well, Ricky, you got a little taste of how things were changing and things were happening with players because you were still around here and working with the coaches when Ricky Williams was brought in. And you watched that whole month of training camp, how he wouldn't do interviews and that he had that prima donna type of attitude and even went into the regular season like that where he became very, very difficult to work with from a media standpoint. How was he behind closed doors, and did you ever say anything to him?
Well, I think he was one of the best young kids that St. Brung there. I mean, he had problems that you guys didn't know about. So, it wasn't, the problem that he was dealing with, you guys didn't even know what he was going through or nothing about the guy. So, y'all had him in a category that didn't even fit him anyhow. And I think that, when he came in with the Saints, he was one of the best players that they brought in there besides Willie Rowe in a lot of years. So, you never did get to know him. And that's why with the helmet thing on and all that, Ricky, Ricky had a problem that you see now that you didn't know then, but he had him then.
Ricky,
but he was always a good player and a good person.
The sad news today of the passing of Sam Mills at the age of 45. Where were you when you found out, Rick?
I was on the golf course, and I playing Stone Mountain.
Oh, so you're hanging out in Atlanta today, huh, Rick?
Yeah.
So Rick, what was it like in the huddle? Like, what type of communication? You know, the whole dome patrol. I mean, you had, you know, Pat and his personality, Pat Swilling's personality. You had Von Johnson. You had yourself and Sam Mills. How were y'all able to communicate and work together as a unit? Could you share some of that as far as how y'all fed off one another?
Well, all of us was good players, and all of us enjoyed each other. But me, Sam, and Vaughn, we was on the same page. We all three of us were always on the same page. Me, Sam, and Vaughn, we was all of us close. We was always like brothers for the whole years they was there.
What about Sweet Swill?
Well, Swill was cool, but me, Sam, and Vaughn, we was more on the same page.
No. So you say was Swill maybe a little ahead of his time? Would he have been like what we call a prima donna?
He was younger than us, so he was more like the players playing today.
Yeah, right.
He was more of a prima donna. He was on a different level than us.
Well, yeah, that's what, I remember this, Rick, when Pat, and to his credit, was the most valuable defensive player in the whole NFL. But I remember, like, just thinking on that, I go, well, one of the reasons, and I love Pat, was that, hey, Ricky was like, shoot, they got 2 blocking me. They only got 1 on you. You should be MVP. Almost that kind of...
when those guys, Finks was getting out of there then, he was on his way out. But then, Coach Martin, they took it and they created that around there. So whenever they created it, I was ready to get out of there anyhow. So
what Ricky's saying is the politics of the NFL. Your contract's coming up. And that's what, I try to tell the Saints fans. Everyone would have loved to stay with the Saints and finish our career, but you very seldom, stay on the same team. Look, Martin Anderson left, Stan Brock went to the Chargers, Ricky Ulaf went to the 49ers,
right.
Even the great Joe Montana.
So, first of all, when Martin Anderson ever kicked bad enough to get off the team?
Amen.
I mean, he can kick today just like he kicked when he came in. His leg might not be as strong, but he got the same accuracy, so he's supposed to play with the Saints for 20-something years.
Exactly. That's when Mr. Benny should have stepped up and said, you know what? No, Martin Anderson is as big as the Saints as any player, and he should have been a Saint, kind of like a John Elway, maybe Dan Marino. I mean, look, he could have said...
And that's what keeps you from winning the Super Bowl, when you don't keep the nucleus of the team together. When you're trying to fish for players, you might get a great player like Joe Horn every blue moon, but you don't send players like Willie Rowe. You don't let people like that get away. I mean, you got a great player, you keep him intact and put good players around him. And,
Jim,
that's the only problem I see.
Were you shocked when you learned of the news that Morton was moving on?
Yeah, I was shocked with that news. I was shocked with the news that Ricky Jackson was traded. I was hurt when Bobby Hebert was moved on to another team. I thought that at that time Carl Smith should have been traded and Bobby Hebert should have stayed around.
Oh, there you go. That says a lot. Steve, over the years, we've had a lot of different conversations, and everybody always said the same thing. A man that he just mentioned, Carl Smith, great mind, came up with a lot of different things, but when it came to game day, lacked maybe the right kind of punch. Is that a nice way to put it?
Well, let's just say he got less creative on game day, because I know that there was times we practiced a lot of good things. We had a great game plan. We ran the ball as an offensive line. You take pride in running the football, and we ran the ball as good or better than anybody in the National Football League during those years.
With Dalton Hilliard.
Yeah, and gave up the fewest amount of sacks, tied for first and second several times. And I know that there was times we would be in big games, and we would just absolutely choke on the play calling at some point.
Before we let Ricky go, Ricky, I know that one of the things that a lot of people remember, one of the memories that many people have is walking off the field with Bobby Hebert. After the playoff loss, you made it a point to go out there and walk with Bobby off the field. What did Bobby mean to you? And wrap it up, if you could, with what Sam Mills meant to you, Ricky.
Well, I mean, I played with Archie Manning, and I thought the world of him. And Bobby came along, and I thought the world of him. And, so when Sam Mills got there, he did me a favor because he went to call the defense. I didn't have to worry about certain things, so it freed me up to play. And I thought that Sam Mills was one of the most toughest guys that I played with, and he was a special guy. I mean, for him to be 5'9", 220 pounds, and played the way he played, I thought the world of him. But for us running with him and hanging with him, we didn't run the same circle. But when we got to the job, we looked for one another.
Ricky Jackson. Yeah, there you go. Hey, Ricky, thank you very much for taking time with us, City Champ. We appreciate it. We look forward to spending more time with you when we have more time as the football season gets even closer and you can help us break things down. Okay, Rick?
All right, that's good. Y'all got a good man, Bobby Hebert.
Yes, we Rick. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you later. All right.
All right, God bless y'all.
All right, you too, Ricky. Ricky Jackson. Jim Wilkes is in the studio with us. Steve Court is in the studio with us. This is Sports Talk with Bobby Hebert and myself, Kenny Wilkerson, right here on the Big 870.
If you love fishing and hunting, Don Dubuque's latest reports are at your fingertips. Click on WWL Outdoors at WWL.com. WWL, traffic and weather together.
Related accident, veterans in Clearview. Also an accident just before the Williams off-ramp. Activity on the right shoulder. Sluggish through the Clearview Power area. Multi-car accident, actually two-car accident. I-10 East before 2-Lane Avenue up-ramp. One vehicle overturned in the right lane there. Center lane blocked. Very heavy delays on the Claybert overpass, and especially the I-10 East adjacent to the Dome. High-rise is clear. No late problems on the twin spans. I'm Rob Nelson on the Big 870 WWL.
See our new course, Play the Pros, including defending champ and player of the year, B.J. Singh. Introducing the Zurich Classic of New Orleans, April 25th through May 1st. For tickets, call 342-3000 or visit a nearby Seva Center or OmniBank today.
Muggy and cool overnight. There may be some patchy fog around in the morning. Low temperatures mid-50s north to the lake, upper 50s south. For Tuesday, warm and humid with clouds and sunshine. 20% chance for a shower. Highs around 80. Wednesday, 20 to 30% chance for isolated showers. Warm and humid otherwise with highs in the lower 80s. For Thursday and Friday, 20% on the rain chance. Highs in the low to mid-80s. I'm Channel 4 Chief Meteorologist Carl Redondo reporting for WWL 870 AM.
Saturday, April 23rd, Draft Fest 2005 with Mike Cotillier and Bobby Hebert of the WWL Sports Team. Gates open at 10. Join the Children's Museum for face painting, pennant and football helmet design activity. Have your picture taken performing your favorite sport by fantastic photos. Compete in the Cool 95.7 karaoke contest. Win a spa from the Spa Shop. The first 1,000 fans receive a Draft Fest goodie bag. Draft Fest 2005 soccer field at Zephyr Stadium. Admission free. Parking $3 a car. Presented by Charter Communications and the Louisiana Lottery.
The sun is shining and the grass is growing. It's time for the Early Bird Spring Sale, a one-of-a-kind sales event that only happens once a year at Sunshine Equipment Company in LaPlace, Donaldsonville, and Thibodaux. If your brand is John Deere, that beautiful yellow and green, here's your chance to save dollars. Get a 27-horsepower John Deere compact utility tractor for as low as $139 per month. You heard right, $139 per month gets you into a compact utility tractor. Need more horses? Get a full-size John Deere utility tractor for as low as $159 per month. $159 per month gets you 50 horses of John Deere's full-size utility tractor. And this is for a John Deere. You know, nothing runs like a deer. But you have to act this week. This is the Early Bird Spring Sale, only at Sunshine Equipment Company in LaPlace, Donaldsonville, and Thibodaux. Get the sunshine and act today.
Special financing ends May 2nd, 2005. Up to 20% down payment may be required. Subject to approved credit on John Deere Credit Installment Plan. Some restrictions apply. See Sunshine Equipment for details and other financing offers.
In Germany, there is a tradition that goes back hundreds of years. Every September when the air began to cool, the people of Germany would empty their beer cellars to make room for the next year's batch. Naturally, in order to empty them out, they had to drink all the beer first. As you might imagine, this party would go on for days. And days. In fact, it rolled right into October and ultimately became known as Oktoberfest. To this day, the beer of Oktoberfest is called Schmerzen, and it's in this great tradition that we created Gordon Beer Schmerzen.
And we welcome you back to Sports Talk. Kenny Wilkerson along with Bobby Hebert. Joined in the studio tonight in this hour by Steve Court, also Jim Wilkes. Later in the next hour, Hokie Gajon will join us and Morton Anderson will be back. Joining us on the line, the voice of the New Orleans Saints here on the Big 870, our own Jim Henderson, as well as Archie Manning. And Archie, I'll start with you. Thank you very much for taking time with us. Could you play, we were talking during the break just now, please give Bobby a little advice on having two sons that play football, and even yours are already in the NFL. Who knows what's going to happen with his two, because one's just finished in high school and the other one's coming along. What can you tell him right now, Arch?
Oh, my advice if you got kids playing football is find you a good place on the top row to watch and keep your mouth shut.
But Arch, you know that's almost impossible for me to keep my mouth shut.
Well, it is kind of hard.
Come on, you know, be like me leading the chairs and stuff. I mean, like the Booster Club president and stuff.
Well, it's just during those games that I tell you sometimes sometimes it's very tempting, but, you know, on officials or criticizing the coaches, it's pretty easy to do. I always try to give myself about a 1 hour limit, too, when I first see the kids after a game before I throw anything out there either. You know, kind of let that come to you before you start telling them what they did. Should have done this, should have done that.
Hey, but Archie, growing up, raising Peyton and Eli, did you ever dream that they'd be in this position?
Heck no. Heck no. I never thought anything like that. I was, you know, when I thought they were going to play, when they were just interested in sports, I was kind of glad, because I think that's great for kids. But, you know, I have to admit, it'd be neat if they wanted to be high school football players or play baseball, you know, they want to do high school sports, because I think there's so many things you learn there. But beyond that, and it scared me. Cooper was the first one. Cooper came to me, you know, he weighed about 145 pounds. He's about a freshman. He says, I want to be a college football player. You know, and my immediate thought was, you know, some Division III school up in Hampshire or something, you know, that maybe...
Millersville State.
Yeah. But, no, never had any idea that these guys would, you know, even go to college, much less beyond that.
As I mentioned, the voice of the Saints, Jim Henderson, with us. And Jim...
Do I have to be on with him?
Yes, you do.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you do, and I know
this wasn't part of the deal when y'all called me.
Well, we wanted to get you, so that's why we didn't tell you.
All right,
Jim, being on the North Shore, I know that you probably do run into Steve Court from time to time, and as well as Jim Wilkerson's back in the area. He lives over here on the South Shore, but both these guys look like they could probably help the Saints out a bit and play.
I do run into Steve once in a while, and I see him around. He's usually dressed in scrubs. He's in the medical profession, and you're right, he looks like he still could play. Archie, on the other hand, really never looked like he could.
So Jim, what do you say? Archie was a classic overachiever, and his sons are just the naturals now, or what?
Bobby, I think you've already shown a great aptitude for this business, because you reduced it to a nutshell. That's exactly what I've been feeling. So they took after Olivia, obviously.
Jim's just kind of sitting back and listening to all this. How well did you get to know Jim Henderson during your playing days, Jim Wilk?
I didn't know him as well as I knew Archie. I played a few years with Archie, and Archie bought my first meal when I got in the league. So
Man, that never happened to me.
So I'm an Archie fan for life.
Archie, is that why you said a few minutes ago you had no idea that you were coming on with Jim? Did you not that you were on with him? Were you expecting this much abuse?
Well, it's amazing. You know, I made a vow when I quit doing radio that I'd try to never be in his presence again. Certainly, I'd never want to be on radio with him again. But you know, if I ever did run into him again, I was going to make him buy that first meal, which he didn't.
Gotcha. Well, Archie, listen, thank you very much for taking time with us. And Jim, as I was just telling these guys in our last commercial break, kind of laying the foundation tonight for many more shows that we'll be doing in the future. And both Jim Henderson and Archie Manning hopefully will, and definitely will be in our plans on Sports Talk with myself and Bobby.
Kenny, let me say, you and Bobby, I just wish y'all the best. It's great. A couple of great guys you got there with you, Steve Cord and Jim Wilkes, and a lot of those guys from those good teams y'all had. So I wish y'all the very best.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, and I appreciate that coming from you, because he is the Saints living icon. I mean, Tulane Stadium, Archie Manning, you don't get better than that.
And Jim Henderson, thank you as always. We'll talk to you down the road, okay, Jim?
All right, congratulations, guys. Look forward to a lot of successful years ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Steve, Jim, a pleasure. We were talking during the break about X's and O's type shows, really breaking things down, giving the fans much more than they've been accustomed to in years past here in New Orleans, and we look forward to spending time with you guys on the show with Bobby.
Thanks for having us.
Okay.
Definitely be back.
Okay, we really look forward to it. That's Jim Wilkes and Steve Court, Bobby Hebert here in the studio, along with myself, Kenny Wilkerson. This is Sports Talk on the Big 870. Welcome to the third and final hour of Sports Talk on this Monday evening. Kenny Wilkerson along with our own Bobby Hebert. We'll still have more Sports Talk coming up, though. After this is Corey Johnson. We'll be at the mic and take you until 10 o'clock. If you've missed some of the news, the biggest news of the day, besides, of course, Bobby Hebert joining the WWL team here, that's on the very sad passing of Sam Mills at the age of 45. We're back in the studio here at the Dominion Towers, now the Buddy D studio, which we haven't had enough time to do. We haven't had a lot of time. We haven't talked much about that. We will hear shortly. Joined back in the studio by Morton Anderson and our own Hokie Gaijon. And before we even go back to these guys, Bobby, just the fact of being able to be broadcasting, I don't know how you feel about it. You mentioned this when you were on with us a couple of weeks ago and a month or so ago, to be in here, and now that it's going to be called
the Buddy D studio. We've got a couple of, the portrait by Tuna is in here. We've got a big color picture, a big nice photograph of Buddy from the night of the roast, as well as some of the newspaper articles and everything. It really is going to be something each and every night to be able to come in here and do the show and have, and remember now, he's sitting right behind you and he's looking right at me, so. Oh no, listen, the spirit of Buddy D is alive and well in this place. I mean, to be this close to the dome, I mean, the whole atmosphere, I mean, kind of sometimes feel like somebody's tapping you on the shoulder and guiding you, telling you to, you know, just say what you feel. You know, don't pull any punches, don't be a puppet, just call it like you see it, and the spirit of Buddy D is alive and well in here. I mean, it's almost like, you know, kind of spooky. Like, Morton Anderson stuck around here and joining us here in this hour as well. And Morty, thanks a lot. We kind of got into that story about the 911 episode with you and with the New York Giants. If you could again, I mean, just that was 8 beers ago, man. I just had an hour break. What do you want me to do now? What am I gonna do? I'm screwed. Yeah, 9/11. Yeah. Yeah, man. Feeling pretty good, huh, Morty? No, yeah. Everything's fine. It was a very powerful experience up there in New York, no question. And I'm obviously happy I had a job with the Giants. It was a great organization, and they did a top class. They treated their players great. And you were right in the middle of it. But we were coming home from Denver on Monday, on the 10th of September, and we landed at 6. And I remember a beautiful sunrise with the towers standing there, and I go, wow, this is just, you know, some of the most powerful symbols in the world of free enterprise. And, you know, I didn't necessarily think about, you know, I didn't. When you reflected back, right? I was saying, you know, landing was just a gorgeous day, and not a cloud, nothing. And we landed, I went back to sleep, but it turned out to where we docked our plane, United plane, was two planes away from Flight 93 that went down Pennsylvania. Found out about that later on. Mm-hmm. But our practice facility is in the Meadowlands right out by Giant Stadium in Rutherford, East Rutherford, New Jersey. And when you were looking, when the practice fields faced Manhattan, it was very, not great practice facilities, not a lot of, sort of like Old Steams Drive, you know, where you had like 80 yards, David Drive, you know, where you had like the projects, right? 80 yards of that and 40 yards of that, and sort of had to make it work. And we were facing Manhattan, and literally the goalposts were right where the Twin Towers were, and it was kind of my aiming point when I was practicing. And, you know, you go to work on, of course, that whole next week was canceled for good reason because of the tragedy. But when we came back and the thing was still smoldering and what have you, and the wind turned from the east and blew everything from Manhattan out to us, right? It really was just a horrendous thing. And so you watched it. I mean, you were able to watch. I didn't see the tragedy. I mean, I was sleeping. We had a Monday night game, but I saw the smoke. Yeah, I went in there. You know, we went in there and we tried to. I mean, give support to the firefighters and the families and the police and the... So Martin, didn't you tell me that it was like one of the greatest experiences to play on the Giants, all the connections? Yeah, it was. I mean, well, if you needed a ticket to a show, if you needed to go to a restaurant, if you needed anything, you played with the New York Giants. And they had like sort of an entertainment liaison for the team that just hooked it up. And the next thing you know, you're watching Mamma Mia in the third row in the middle and going, I thought this show was sold out. But John, you know, it's a shame. But it was just unbelievable. It's a shame Hokey Guyjon was never on that team because we know how much he would have taken advantage of all those tickets. But Mamma Mia, you're a big ABBA fan? I'm a big ABBA fan, All the Broadway shows and everything. Hokey's an opera critic. Come on, Martin. Opera critic? Hell of a time just going there, and you drug me into it. Hokey, you hear the story. You know Dancing Queen. I mean, you know SOS. Fernando, knowing me, knowing you. Yeah, believe me, I know SOS. You can believe that. I'm waving the white flag right now, man. But no, Martin, is that the attitude that once a Giant, always a Giant? I mean, could you still have... Yeah, you know what was great about that? They brought the guys back that had played for it. And if you think about the history of football teams, you have to say that the New York football Giants like the Bears, the Packers, Giants, are one of the most storied franchises in the world. I mean, meeting Polo Grounds, New York, Yankee Stadium. Forget about it. I mean, Wellington Mayor, and, you know, meeting him, and he came to almost every practice, 80-some years old. He'd come to the practice, you know, talk to you. What are you working on? Did he get any speeches like Mr. Bender? No. We just working to win. No, he didn't. Get any of those speeches? No, I mean, Wellington, but it was just, he was unbelievable. The guy was unbelievable, and he just, the way they treated their players and their past players was really tremendous, and they brought them back a lot and got them involved, and of course the fan base up there, the fan base was... Yeah, I mean, like it's in families' wills, you know, right. Their tickets. And it's impossible.
I do want to bring Hokie into this conversation, in all seriousness here in a second, but one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Morton, before I even forget, let's see, Bum, Moore, Glanville, June Jones, Dan Reeves, Fossil, Tice, who am I missing?
Big Vermeil.
Vermeil.
Oh, no, I'm so glad to have you here, Martin. You're so
come on, man,
don't do that to me. No, why does he cry all the time? It's not like to show emotion and cry now and then.
He's related to Roy Williams.
Very passionate, very passionate about what he does. Him and Martin had great conversations over wine, so just tell us your wine stories.
Well, I mean, we did. All right, go ahead.
Kenny, you
keep it together, Kenny. I've tried. All those coaches, all those years, is there one thing that they all have in common?
They were all insane. They were all whacked.
No, football coaches
really a hard leg. Head football coaches are, you know, this is a special breed. I mean, you have to think, eat, sleep, drink football, but they were all very passionate about what they did, and they loved what they did, and some delegated better than others, I thought. Some were really hands-on, and they all wanted to make a statement right away initially when they came to a football team, and then they sort of loosened the reins. But I thought it was always, certainly with Jim Moore, when we had 8 linemen, you know, a day on IVs and Hammond. I don't think that was real healthy, and made Earl Campbell one of the greatest running backs in the history of the game quit, and Hokie, I don't know why you didn't quit that year. I mean, but you didn't. You were there, man. Hokie was an overachiever. That's what I liked about Hokie. Oh, was it Dalton? No. Dalton. No, with Dalton and Hammond, yeah. No, Dalton and Hammond having to wear those knee braces. Oh, yeah. We were just bringing that up, and but I think it was just unheard of. Yeah, but I think, you remember one of the first meetings he had with us, and he goes, hey, I know it's hot. It's hot on me. It's hot on the coaches. It's hot on the players. It's hot on the garbage man out there. It's hot. You change. I'm not going to change. You know, it's like, okay, Coach, we're dying out here. I mean, something needs to happen. Southeast Louisiana, we called it Hammond Beach. You know, there's no in the pine trees, no wind. You're in the shade. You can't stop sweating. I can literally remember I lost 30 pounds in one day. Go from 216 to 201. Eat lunch, take a nap, try and get the fluids back in your body, then lose another 15 pounds. You had linemen like Steve Coyle was just here losing 22, 40, 43, 44 pounds of practice. Coach Peace, remember the D-line coach, now the Saints D-line coach again. He was coaching, losing 8 or 9 pounds just coaching, running around crazy. It was... You know, that's when Gene Klein said, all the doctors got together and said, listen, Coach Moore, you got to tone down training camp or somebody's going to die. You know, the whole, like, Corey Stringer thing? He said, die? He goes, die? That's not an option. You can't die? Man, what? What are you talking about, die? He said, well, die on me. He said, ain't no way we toning down practice. He's just going to move training camp. And that's when we went to the can't die? I need something out of you. Don't die on me. I don't know about you guys, but I want to hear Hokie do some more. That was pretty good, Hokie. I've never heard you do that before. You heard him right out. Like, look, I got to listen to 15 years of it. Hell, this guy can't play. Jesus Christ. What do you say? Hey, Coach, you think he's special? Yeah. You think he's special? I'll show you special. Gassers, run. That's special. No, I always remember more looking at you, too, and say, like, you know, try and keep you humble. And you couldn't handle prima donnas in those days. He'd always look at you like, well, just because you play pro football, you think you're real special, huh? Yeah, but you're no different than the guy that's, you know, the plumber or the auto mechanic. You're not special. Because he always wanted to try and make us, you know, and actually it kept me humble. Yeah. Say, you know what? Oh, yeah, he had down. Good ones. You know, we all, you know, take a crap, or, you know, we all do the same thing. You know, put your shoes on one at a time, you know, your underwear. So ourselves was kind of that way, too. You know? Yeah, for old school guys. Motivating, almost by intimidation, or, oh, Anderson, you finally made a kick. Great. I think that's why we paid you. Yeah, that's the first one I've made in only the last 10 years. Oh, this is Sports Talk. You're listening to Sports Talk on the Big 870. Kenny Wilkerson along with Bobby Hebert. Morton Anderson and our own Hokie Guys are in the studio with us. The Buddy D studio, high above the Dominion Towers overlooking the Louisiana Superdome. We'll continue with more Sports Talk right here on the Big 870 right after this. What? Welcome back to Sports Talk. Kenny Wilkerson along with Bobby Hebert in the studio tonight in this hour with Morton Anderson and also our own Hokie Guys on. Fine on there. Fine on there.
Ricky. Now, these guys have been gone, and Morton's been off, Bobby's been away.
Listen, Hokie and I now on the air, face-to-face, we've said this story. All right. You know, Hokie and I played against each other in 1976.
Yeah, the first time I ever met Bobby Hebert was 4 yards deep in the backfield at the stadium. He was a strong safety, I was a running back, and he tackled me 4 yards deep.
For us to win the game, Coach Perry, Ralph Perry, Salva Foods playing Baker High School, say, for us to win, we got to stop Hokie Gajan because they can't throw. They're just going to run. I think the week before, he had about 177 yards rushing against East Jefferson. Then all of a sudden, they just stopped Hokie. I was playing strong safety, so no matter what play they're running, just rush every play and go tackle Hokie. So I would be blitzing off the corner.
And he did a damn good job of it. I will say that. This is a true story. I mean, we stopped, after the ball game was over, we stopped at a little restaurant right there on the bayou heading back to Baker. We just got our butts kicked. 41-7.
Yeah, 41-7
was the score. And a guy named, I know this is going to sound stupid, but this is honest to God's truth, what the teacher's name was, and he was kind of a assistant coach. His name was Joe Green. And Coach Green, you know, he came up, we were eating and everything else, and he goes, I don't know who that Bobby Hebert guy is, but he spent more time in the backfield than we did.
You know, talking about high school coaches not making adjustments, but, I mean, I should be able to tackle him. Nobody's blocking me. And, you know, he's waiting for the quick pitch. He did this quick pitch, so he's kind of looking for the pitch. And so, I mean, I had a running start on him. So I should be able to make the play most of the time. So that was the key. I never forget this. We looked at their team, but they looked tough. Remember, a lot of them had their head shaved, and had real short hair, like crew cuts.
No, they were bald, premature baldness.
He said that y'all were the skinheads and they were the hippies. No, we had long hair. Remember, like Bebe Ozone, Ed Ozone is now the head coach at Ole Miss. Look, man, it's like old Fred Blitnikoff, like their hair touching their jerseys in the back. And Hokie, you know, they look way more mature than us because their heads all shaved and stuff. Hokie, true story, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a true story.
So that was my first acquaintance with Hokie Gajan, and of course him going to LSU and having a great career, and him being really, Hokie's like the original, I don't know if you call him Cajun Cannon, but Cajun Cannonball.
OG.
You know, he'd be like the cannonball coming out because he would slap run over people.
Well, it was actually, Ken Stabler gave me the name, the Bayou Bowling Ball.
Oh,
that's a little bit more appropriate.
Bayou Bowling Ball.
That was after the fifth of JD, too. I heard what he said out before that. Yeah, that's what's been so fun about being around here tonight. You know, Morton and Bobby and Jim Wilson, Steve Court in here, everything else. I mean, guys sitting around telling stories and everything else. And it's hard for people to understand this now. I think all you guys will agree with this. I mean, the difference between us and the players today, we're friends. Yeah. I mean, these guys, not only, they were my teammates, but more so than that, they were my friends. And still are, and always will be. So when people say, what's different with the game today than it was back then, the first thing everybody wants to throw out is money. And yes, there is a huge difference right now in the amount of money that players are getting paid. But we guys are friends, and always will be.
I bet you could probably add to that, Hokie, what you couldn't do today. Some players you could, but not many. That you guys are also friends to this day with your coaches. And that's not really, especially the head coach. I'm sure that all three of you guys, you make fun of more, but you're friends with more. Listen, make fun of bum, all around bum, and friends with bum. Listen, on spring break, I was just visiting my daughters in California, and I went on the radio with more out there. No, it's like you gotta respect each other. And at the time, Maura might have been MFing me and, telling me different things. But, I mean, then you gotta get away from it, then you keep things in perspective. Because I tell you what, Coach Maura kind of took the approach, and a lot of players, I think, looked at him that way. They didn't necessarily like him, but they respected him. And a lot of respect comes when you win. And when you win, you can put up with anything. And we know, Hokie, from, being around nowadays with this football team and with the Saints especially, that in years to come, when some players are finished playing, and Jim, I don't know how good of friends they'll be. I don't know that Jim Haslett and Joe Horn will ever speak another word to one another when Joe Horn leaves here or when Jim Haslett leaves here. Not like you knew when you guys were playing that down the road when it was over, you would be friends with these, not just the players. And along that line, Martin, how do you feel like with teammates now? Because you're like a living like generation. You played like the 80s, 90s. Now 2000. I mean, he still looks like he's 23 years old, but he's been in the league. Oh, no, I'm playing with guys now last year with 20 years younger. The guys weren't born when I started my professional career, and they don't really have any history with me, or I don't have any history with them, obviously, and they just... So what did they look at you like, the old... They look at me like, whoa. Are you a relic?
Yeah,
what
but
are you? I mean,
are you? Bobby, let's face it. Though, I mean, remember when Ken Stabler was there? And, I mean, I love Ken Stabler, but when he came in, he looked like an old man. Right. I mean, when they come in right now, they look at Morton. Morton doesn't look like an old man.
No, he doesn't. No. Kenny Stabler like before Bama. Thanks, okay.
I mean, it's the truth.
No, you can see that Ken
Well, just give it to me while we're here.
All right, Cat. That Kenny spent many a night at Florida Bama.
Right, with Billy Gilmer.
Hey, I got a story about Kenny. I mean, this is, and I hope Kenny's listening tonight because he'll probably deny it, but I mean, this is after Thursday practice. We usually had, chicken and beer after Thursday practice. But Kenny came up to me. My locker was next to him. He goes, he leaned over. He goes, Morton, let's go for a ride. I go, I was like 22, 23, I go, well, all right. So I go out to his car. I see a bottle of Black Label Jack Daniels sitting on the console. I go, where are we going, Kenny? He goes, we'll just take a ride down the coast. He was going home.
Going back to the coast.
I said, man, I ain't going, man. I'm not going with you. Well, he took off. Talking about hard living. I don't know. I have no clue. There's no point to the story other than the fact that back then, it was like almost anything went, and you just did it, and he didn't.
No, you just hear the old John Madden Raiders story.
Kenny was like throwback.
Listen, Fred Belitnikoff, who coached me when I was at the Oakland Invaders wide receiver. I mean, I can remember. Listen to this. He's coaching Oakland Invaders. Okay, he comes to the meetings, and he's looking at the players like Anthony Carter and all that, and he has in his hands the game plans. He goes, "Here's what we're doing. Today's practice. I got to go take a nap." And he'd go sleep in his office about 3 hours and show up for practice about 1 o'clock. And then he had the same clothes he had on the day before. And he'd show up the next day. You see that? That's like...
Remember Rob Nairn?
It's that political correctness.
Rob Nairn was the lineman. Rob Nairn had...
He had the hurricane
He slept in his car in the parking lot at David Drive. I go, hey, Rob, man, you got a nice place? He goes, yeah, it's all right. I'd like to check it out sometime, He goes, yeah, I'll take you. You can check it out. He took me out in the parking lot and showed me his car. And he opened up the trunk, and he had everything. All his belongings in there. I go, where do you sleep? What, like, apartment, a condo? He goes, no, right here. He opened the back door up. And so he's like, right here. Am I right? I mean, it's unbelievable. He's in his car.
You never got a chance to meet Rob Nairn. But he was...
I never met him.
Yeah, now you missed one of the...
Is that like Chris Farley? I live in the van down by the river. He lived in a car, not a van.
And Jim Wilkerson, remember this? I mean, he was leaving like North Carolina and coming to Vero Beach.
Yeah.
And they put up
a Nairn sign. Yeah.
They put up a hurricane tracking chart down there because Rob would call and say, well, I'm going to be a little bit late getting to Vero. I mean, he's coming from North Carolina to Vero Beach. You're coming right down the East Coast. He goes, I'm in Houston.
In 12 hours.
And then you call the next day and go, well, I'm in Atlanta. Everybody was just tracking.
There was no GPS, no GPS.
Trying to find out when he was.
You're right. It was pretty good.
Oh, I mean,
he played, boy. He could play.
He's one of those kind of guys that, that he made the locker room fun. I mean, just a knucklehead.
Scary, I thought. Well, that place was scary, Rob Nairn in it, man. Him and Tony Elliott. Oh,
you guys.
That was frightening.
Morton, you especially, since you're still playing. I'm not sure. I know I get to see this every week with Hokie. I mean, he genuinely, no matter what, is still always pulling for the Saints. And with the broadcast and everything, I mean, sure. If a guy screws up on the field, Hokie says it. And one of the famous lines this past season, I don't even remember which corner, who it was in the secondary, but at some point in the game, Hokie even says in the broadcast, and that's a prime example of having your head up your butt. Okay. So, when it comes to the broadcast of the games, he's been talking about him like he's actually what he's seeing on the field and just describing it. But I know that he genuinely wants the Saints to win and pulls for the Saints. He gets excited. Even when things are going bad and they win a game or whatever, he's pumped. Not even being a Saint anymore, but still playing. Do you?
I honestly don't think about that on a daily basis because I'm in another team and another allegiance to another football team.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's paying my checks off. Yeah. Listen, I mean, I'm a contractor right now. I'm an independent contractor.
Mercenary.
And of course, I want the Saints fans to have a good experience when they go on Sundays. I really do.
You want the Saints fans to experience what you experienced playing in the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Like Hokie and I, and
you know what?
had to do that.
When we had the years we did here in the Superdome, and it was rolling,
nothing
and
better.
it was loud. There was nothing better. And I want that for the fans. I really do. Do I have allegiance to the football team anymore? No, I don't, because I don't pay my bills.
Right. I mean, your only ties to the New Orleans Saints right now would be Dan Simmons, Silky Powell, and Kevin.
Yeah, and I keep in touch with those guys.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, and but the organization itself is like, hey, that's all behind me now.
It's behind me, and I got to move forward. And
I know I've asked you this question before, but I think I got to ask it again right now. I mean, you're going into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Whenever you get done.
I don't know.
How are you going in?
Hopefully, but walking in there. I mean.
Oh, if it happens for you, Mort.
Martin, you got to go as a Saint. You got to go. I will. I think I will. I would love to have a dialogue with the Saints organization today. I've never had any conversation with management or with the ownership since I left.
Mm-hmm. Chances are you probably won't.
I think that's silly. I think that's silly, and I think that's unprofessional. Well, you put it, you know what, the truth hurts sometimes. All you Saints management people, if y'all listening out here, this is one guy you need to take care of, Martin Anderson. I'm not saying that because he's right here. I mean, he'll probably be the first. I think he'll be the first player in the Hall of Fame. So why wouldn't you want to have a working relationship with him? It's just common sense. You know what I mean? To me, it's a no-brainer.
Well, if they came back at you, Mort, and said, well, it's because of what you just mentioned, because you are still playing, and when the day comes that your career and you do finally retire, they open things up with you then. Would that make it a whole lot better? Or do you feel like because
I have no hard feelings.
Okay.
I don't have any hard feelings. I think it's odd that a football team and a football organization doesn't recognize guys, and I'm not talking personally about me, but other players too. I'm not unique to this example, but I think there have been several occasions and examples where players were dismissed unceremoniously and were never heard from again.
Well, unfortunately, one passed away today in Sam Mills.
Yeah.
Sam Mills is somebody that's been gone for a long time.
Mills
not even playing.
Statue in Carolina.
Statue in Carolina, and he only played there for a handful of years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what do you have here, Hope? He doesn't even have a jersey up on the wall.
Right, and or a banner or anything like that.
Right. That's what you're talking about, right, Morton?
Well, I'm just talking about, let's be professional. Let's do this thing right, and for all the ex-players. So Mark, speaking of the Super Bowl, though, how was it like? How did you feel? Did you feel different like when you're walking through the tunnel in the game, like preparing that day? I mean, you feel like you're on the big stage. I mean, how did it feel?
Yeah, you do. I mean, we were putting out fires, unfortunately. I'm sure you heard.
Yeah, with Eugene Robinson.
Yeah, no, that whole thing. So that was a distraction, no question. But it is overwhelming, and I humbly have to say I wasn't quite ready for it, and I had a poor game. I didn't play well, and we didn't play well. We got off to a decent start. We went up 3-0, and then Denver just sort of. They had been there before, and Elway's last year, and they had momentum, and I think we were kind of happy that we had beat the Vikings, who were the NFC favorites.
Yeah, there's no one...
At 15-1, we went up to Minnesota and beat them.
That year, no one expected the Falcons to beat the Vikings. They were setting all kind of records.
Well, we had a tremendous team.
That's why you got to get to the playoffs, and anything can happen.
Right, and that particular NFC Championship game, not only did the Falcons not given much of a chance to win, nobody would have ever dreamed Gary Anderson would have missed.
I know it.
And he
only
won
of the year.
Yeah. And he missed, and that gives
from the
you
same spot that I made in overtime, which was so bizarre.
Yeah.
39 left hands, yeah.
I mean, nobody would have
on the Super Bowl. I appreciate that. But I remember, I knew there was the Super Bowl. I was standing next to Cher, and she was singing the national anthem. I go, man, she's had a lot of work done. I mean, but okay, be it as it was, I mean, I go, wow, she looks good, but there's no question there's been some cuts involved. And then the Jets came, and then you knew, and then the lights came on, and it was intense. Mm-hmm. It really was a great experience, and I wish we had just played better.
Yeah. But it was all the distraction of Eugene Robinson the night before, the prostitute and all that, so that was like...
Undercover police officer,
Right. So many times of covering so many different games, never in my wildest dreams having the experience that you had more, coming through the tunnel as Bobby was asking you about and all that, but being down on the field, but being in the stands, being in a Super Bowl, being even in the Superdome for a Super Bowl, the thought of it one day involving the Saints is just, beyond, you just can't even comprehend because it is such a,
I wish it for the people here. I wish it for the people here, I really do.
And I know that Bobby is the same thing for you. I mean, being in Atlanta the last 7 years, and even talking about the Falcons each and every week, heart still with the Saints.
Well, Atlanta, come on, Dan.
No, Martin lives there. Martin knows. I mean, people, the Falcons win, they'll jump on the bandwagon. Like my neighbors, they love the Cleveland Browns. They love the New England.
Everybody has allegiance everywhere.
Yeah, there's no passion. People are born and raised and they die here.
When they go to the World Series, you got 20,000 and 30,000 fans.
Yeah, there's no passion.
This is Sports Talk on the Big 870. Bobby Hebert and Kenny Wilkerson with you on this Monday evening. Morton Anderson is in the studio with us, along with our own Hokie guys on. David Letterman has the Ed Sullivan Theater. We've got the Buddy D studio, and that's where we're at. We'll be back.
Hey, baby, it's on tomorrow's show. Is there racism in the quarter? We're going to talk to the guy who ran them.
And welcome back to Sports Talk, a brand new Sports Talk with you on this Monday evening. Bobby Hebert, along with Kenny Wilkerson here in the Buddy D Studios. We want to remind you and tell you about tomorrow. Join us for an early edition of Sports Talk live from Zephyr Stadium as we count down to LSU Tulane baseball. That's right. Sports Talk with the Cajun Cannon, our own Bobby Hebert, and yours truly, Kenny Wilkerson, right between the front gates at Zephyr Stadium. You can't miss us tomorrow afternoon. We'll start at 4 o'clock and take you all the way up to the first pitch at 6 o'clock right here on the Big 870. And looking forward to that. Most nights, Bobby, 5 to 8. Except for tomorrow night, we're going to go 4 to 6 as we lead into 2.
You got to be flexible.
Yeah.
And that's a big.
You're very
no, you got to make halftime adjustments like Carl Smith never did. No. To be honest, I thought sometimes we had a good game plan the first half. For instance, the Eagles 12 game. I had over 200 yards thrown in the first half. The second half, I couldn't even get a pass off. They made adjustments. We lost the game. That's one thing. But Carl, had success. I got to give credit, though. Listen, all you Saints fans out there, Carl Smith was on the USC National Championship team last year. He was sitting in the plays to Matt Leinart. Mm-hmm. Now, Norm Shaw was the coordinator, but now, Jack Del Rio, who's my old roommate, hired him, and he's now coaching the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Carl, it's kind of a good old fraternity. He does do some things well, but I think sometimes, his thinks always get a little tight and about how to make game decisions. But he had good ideas, but we didn't really adjust to what the defense was doing at times.
Morton Anderson in the studio with us, and our own Hokie guys on, and Hokie just kind of sitting there as much as we've done the last couple of years, you and I. And you mentioned this before about sitting here listening to this tonight. In a way, and I know you said this earlier, it's a testament, to how close everybody was, how good of friends all you guys were, and how everybody feels about Bobby.
Oh, Bobby was...
and flapping.
Goes back to high school with me. When he came down here with the Saints, as soon as when the USFL folded, he was with the territorial rights, is that what they called it?
Yeah.
He was property of the New Orleans Saints. He made a splash.
No, it was not. No, the territorial rights hockey was in the USFL. Now, I was a free agent like Warren Moon. I actually had a deal worked out, you remember Kenny, with the Seattle Seahawks, and that's when Governor Edwards calls over and says, "Hey, Bear, there's no coon asses in Seattle. You need to bring your butt back to Louisiana."
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
It was a good move on his part.
No,
Well, former Saints